Think about what happens when you plug into a new VLAN. You get connectivity at layer 2. You might get a new IP address via DHCP discover, offer request acknowledge, and away you go. You have connectivity to that VLAN and subnet. That's really very promiscuous, very open, and we might want to lock it down. Wouldn't it be great if we could exclude connectivity? We could stop connectivity to the VLAN if they don't have good Windows credentials. Well, guess what? You could take someone's credentials that they use to log into that system and use them as credentials to be challenged and validated against a Radius server, so we can make sure that that user should have network connectivity. So you could disallow network connectivity. Now you think, oh, Windows permissions, that does that. Windows permissions are like, can you authenticate to the domain? Can you authenticate to that server, that file share, that printer? This says you can't even access the network for layer 2 connectivity until you can prove yourself. That's identity-based networking, sometimes called IBNS. Identity-based networking involves a few different elements. Extensible authentication protocol over LAN. EAPL. We call it Extensible Authentication Protocol over LAN. I just prefer EAP over LAN. I wouldn't call it EAPL. But that's what is used to get the credentials over the LAN. Extensible Authentication Protocol basically says you can ask this protocol to relay credentials in a few different ways, in a variety of ways. Extensible means programmatic, flexible, that sort of thing. Radius is there to send that to somewhere else for validation. And that's an important player. Now, these are elements of 802.1x, which is, for me, synonymous with identity-based networking. So here's how powerful this is. You're talking about port-level access control. Port-level access control. Can't access the network if you don't pass the test. Port is basically non-functional. A few management protocols are still communicating, things like CDP, spanning tree protocol, but nothing that the end user is going to want to speak. We need a Radius server. Can you do TACX+? No, you cannot. The switch is a proxy. It's a proxy, so it takes in the credentials via EAP over LAN. You could also just say EAP. And then the server, the switch communicates to the server, the Radius server. And if the Radius server has those credentials, if they check out well, that goes back down to the switch, tells the switch, yeah, you can flip that switch port open, and you can allow that port to be authorized via 802.1x. So this is very powerful. You can do crazy stuff with this. You can apply per user access control lists or do VLAN assignment. But even in the most scaled down approach where you're just saying on or off, connectivity or not, this is very useful. Here we see the different ingredients of 802.1x authentication. You see the EAP side, and then you see the Radius side. EAP on the left, Radius on the right. So we'll take you through it. You usually don't troubleshoot to this degree, where you have to know all of the different elements. But you see EAP over LAN start. We're checking their identity. We get a response. So the client has to be programmed for 802.1x authentication. It can be done. By the way, if you want to just see a little bit about where to do that inside of a typical workstation, let's just go to the control panel here. And you go to authentication. So you can configure 802.1x authentication in this case Now, every operating system is a little bit different, but this is a basic little Windows XP client. And I know, XP is dead, right? But this is what we had in our lab, and it's what I wanted to show you. So let's go back to our slide. So there we go. You communicate via the operating system. That is going to go up to the server. They're basically passed through, challenged, and this is basically, hey, we're validating that you are who you are. In terms of the switch and radius server, then we test it. Is this good? And we might get an acceptance. Hopefully we do. You can see all the EAP side of things as well. Acceptance means EAP indicates success. The port becomes authorized. And at the start, the port was what is called unauthorized. And if you say, hey, I'm leaving, you're kind enough to send an EAP log off message, and the port becomes unauthorized at that point.